Bienvenue tout le monde à la rencontre du 24 mars 2025. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of March 24th, 2025. Can you get us going, please?
Alors, parfait. Je confirme que nous avons tous les membres présents. Donc, nous avons quorum. Le prochain point est l'addition et modification. De l'ordre du jour, nous voulons retirer l'item 11.1 pour la demande de don du bac à don. Ceci est fait à la demande du bac à don. Et ensuite, nous voulons ajouter un item au 18.3, un rapport verbal concernant des relations de travail et une personne identifiable. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres modifications à l'ordre du jour?
J'aimerais ça juste peut-être jaser de un peu de feedback qu'on a eu durant nos rencontres publiques des centres communautaires. Donc, je ne sais pas à quel item ça va tomber, M. Leroux, mais...
Ça serait probablement 14.1.
Parfait. Alors, est-ce qu'il y a autre modification?
Non.
Alors, qu'il soit résolu que l'ordre du jour soit accepté, incluant les modifications apportées séance tenante le cas échéant, proposées par... Oui, Mme Drolet, appuyez.
Oui.
OK, M. Fogg. Tous d'accord? OK, donc on y va. En fait, disclosure of pecuniary interest, est-ce qu'on en a? Pas du tout. OK, aucune de notée. On y a l'item 5, s'il vous plaît.
Alors, qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve les procès-verbaux suivants, le procès-verbal de la réunion publique de zonage tenue le 27 janvier 2025 et la réunion extraordinaire tenue le 18 février 2025 et ensuite la réunion spéciale et régulière le 24 février. Proposé par?
M. Boisvenu, M. Mainville.
Tout est beau?
Tout est beau?
Parfait.
OK. Maintenant, on est rendu à Susan.
Oui, alors, Mme Languacaisse va changer notre audio afin qu'on puisse l'entendre. Et puis, je vais changer aussi la vue sur YouTube. Elle va apparaître sur la grosse écran ici.
Also, I'd like to maybe have Mr. Leroux have
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we are at the stage where Madame Gibson, our consultant in regards to the strategic planning process, will be doing a presentation this evening. She'll be going through the document that was part of the agenda package. Madame Gibson is, we can see her on the screen. Unfortunately, she can't see us. So I suggest that as questions arise, simply make me a sign. I'll keep a queue of who's asking a question. And then when she asks for that, then I'll be able to let her know which member of council is going to be asking a question. And that way it might be a little bit easier to transition through this hybrid model. But with that, I'll let Madame Gibson go ahead.
Thank you so much, CAO Leroux. It's lovely to be with you all today to review a first draft of the nation's 2025-2031 strategic plan. You will note that the document before you includes a draft vision statement, a mission statement, and a series of value statements. There is a short section on the current context, and then there's a narrative that describes sort of a path forward for the next 7 years. And that path forward is a bit of a narrative or storyline that describes 3 priorities that are broken out as providing core services, communicating and informing our community, and strengthening our organization. And on the last page, you'll see there is a summary of the 3 priorities with an articulation of strategies within them. So that's the bulk of the document. Today, specifically, we want your feedback and we want your input to refine and enhance this document before we proceed with a milestones document. Now, I know I've mentioned the milestones document as a secondary piece, and what we want to make sure is that we've got the core element of the strategic plan. You generally as a group approve of it so that as we do milestones against each priority and strategy, we're aligning them to a framework that you've agreed to. And that milestones document will be developed in April, and it will be a chart that literally maps out outcomes and deliverables over the 7-year period against each priority and each strategy in terms of what will be in place by year 1, by year 4, and by year 7. So you will see high-level outcomes and deliverables articulated at the next phase, but we need your feedback on this document to ensure that we're sort of following the same framework. Just a reminder to all of you around the process we've undertaken to date. We all met on February the 18th. in an absolutely gorgeous community center that I love being in with all of you. Full council was there and the management team was there, and it was a good long day of brainstorming and generating ideas. We did a retrospective where we reviewed where we've been and what we learned, what we accomplished, and what we want to focus on going forward with that retrospective. We did a SWOT exercise. We moved around the room and identified what are our core strengths and our capacities, where do we have constraints and weaknesses in terms of the environment out there, where there are opportunities and where are there threats. We made some meaning of the context we're in and identified out of that key opportunities and issues. And then we moved into an exercise in the afternoon in smaller groups where you brainstormed outcomes and milestones. And you remember they went up on the wall. We built them sort of into rows or matrices. And I'll point out that there's a document that was sent out to you in tandem with this document that summarized all of those cards, so you could see how we responded to all of your ideas on the wall. And then additionally, at the end of the day, we asked for input on what would be important to you in a vision statement going forward, a mission statement for the municipality, and value statements. So based on that feedback, a small group of us met for 2 days in a row in the very room that you're in right now, 7 of us in total, took turns on the computer. We drafted this document for you. And we really, after we went through cross-referencing that matrix and the content of the matrix, we went back through a detailed SWOT analysis and detailed minute notes to make sure that all the various points, suggestions, and comments throughout the day were addressed. So we were quite methodical about that. And then just a reminder that from this document, the milestones will flow. So we're going to bring the document up in a minute, but I just want to share a few process pieces for tonight with you. You already know I can't see you, so our illustrious CAO has agreed to be keeping a speaker's queue. And so if someone pops up, Monsieur Leroux, I would encourage you just to stop me and because I can't see anything, just jump in with the mic and ask me to stop, and then we'll proceed with whatever comes up. Tonight, while we're looking for your feedback, I want to really dissuade us from wordsmithing by committee. So you may have a comment or something that you're reading that isn't clear to you or that you feel could be more robust in nature. We would like your feedback and what it is you'd like to see added to that segment or that part of the document. But what I don't want to do is start really getting into editing. A smaller group of us will go away and do that and bring back a tightened up document based on your feedback. So we won't struggle with exact wording. Although when we get to the mission and vision and values, I will ask for some consensus-driven discussion around that. So before we go into the document, I just want to start off with some high-level questions, and I'm going to walk us through the document and then draw out from you things that we need to hear around how to enhance it. But I wanted to begin just with a high-level question, and all councillors are very welcome to respond to this. And I wanted to ask you what your impressions and your insights were when you read the document for the first time. Were there things you liked? What was your reaction to the document? I think it's important to get that right up front. How it felt reading it and your general reflections at large. And I'll just open it up and I'll let CA Leroux move you through a speaker's queue.
Councillor Derolais.
So hello again, by the way. So when I read through the document, I actually mentioned it to I think with Ms. Weiher, and I talked via email, and I really liked how it was presented. I think it was really well done, and I felt like it gave me a clear vision of where we're going. Versus before, I feel like we want to do this project. I feel like it was really, I'm someone that's really visual. So for me, it was good to see what we talked about put in a document all together, concise. And I feel like it makes it, I'm not sure, maybe not financially, but it makes it easier to think of how we're going to reach these goals in the near future. And I already did my pick for vision and mission statement. I was ready for that. But yes, so good job. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, I appreciate that point. And I'm glad that for you, you have a clear sense of sort of the story of where we're going. I want to point out that some of the ideas that were up on the matrix will be inserted in the milestones because they're more granular in nature, but that's very helpful feedback. Other perspectives, other experiences, other impressions from other councillors?
Mr. Mayor?
Other comments or d'autres commentaires? I'll say what I enjoyed or what I liked is the idea of being progressive going forward, and that's something that's important. The idea of financial responsibility is another one that seems to have an overtone of the document, and the fact that we're recognizing the different types of population that we have, urban and rural. Because that's who we are. We are a mix of both, and I think any vision going forward needs to take all those differences into consideration whenever we're building a vision for the whole municipality. So those are the things I really enjoyed. What I really think need to be seen in the document. And the idea of transparency, I think that is something that every municipality strives for, and to have it in writing and make sure that it's part of our vision going forward is something that's very important to me as an individual. So for that those are my comments that I think that going forward.
Thank you so much. Others?
No, I don't think there's any
Okay.
other comments, Susan.
Okay, just another general question, and this is actually a very important question. For those of you who are like me, who my style whenever I'm involved in planning like this is I go back and I look at the matrix. So some of you would have gone back to look at the matrix to make sure there's a coherence. It's very, very important that this document reflect the direction that was set by council. So my question is, have we captured the vision you set? Did it feel like, yes, this is what we generally talked about and mapped out?
I can speak for council's body language. I think everybody's nodding their head, so it seems
Okay.
like that seems to be the right.
Thank
And again,
you.
like I think the idea of core services, I think that being part of the document, and I think you said matrix. I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah,
what
just
you-
the picture we had on the
Yeah.
wall. Yeah.
I think again because as we go forward in our financial realities, we have to recognize what our core services are and what we're good at and what we can provide, and I think that's that needs to be identified in a blunt way so that we know who we are and what we are going forward.
Okay.
So I think, but I think that's what everybody's kind of nodding their head. I think that's essentially the idea.
Thank you so much. I will
Okay.
take it that you're speaking on behalf of the group. Is that fair?
I would say so. Yeah, everybody seems to be nodding their head there, so I think we're all in
And at
agreement.
any point, pop your hands up because we're looking for divergent perspective. I'm actually going to ask Amy, our illustrious clerk, to pull up the document. And I know you all probably likely have it in front of you. And as we look at it, I want to remind you that you gave us input on a vision statement, an aspirational statement of our vision for the municipality going forward. We wrote a variety of options, and I'm going to come back to these actually. I'm going to come back to these at the very end. But there are a number of things that we tried to draw up from the language and the way that you talked about what was important to you around, having a thriving community. And the same with the mission. We provided a couple of different options written in a slightly different way. So I'm going to get you to move down for me. Also to, on the next page, the values. And again, at the end of the day, you provided some ideas on some core values. So we summarized those. And I want to remind you the values are really guiding principles that actually guide the staff's and council's decision-making, its operational approach, its behavior, and everything that it does. So we'll come back to those. But I am going to ask you to go to the next page for me. And I just want to emphasize, we tried to keep this short. We realized this document is intended to be shared with residents in the community and all your stakeholders. So we felt it was important to put a little bit of a context together to talk about your distinct assets, what makes you a special and distinct municipality and community. And so we described some of those great attributes and then also talked about the opportunity to grow strategically and to plan for a brighter future and to create a thriving municipality. So we started with that. And I wanted to check and see, because I'm going to do this methodically. Was there anything in this segment that you felt was, not framed effectively or gapping or missing? And this is just an opportunity to advise us, please add something, please change this. There might be the way something was framed and you're not quite feeling that it's right. So that section, our current context. Thumbs up?
I think everybody seems to agree with what's currently there, so.
Okay, fabulous. I'm going to move us to our path forward. And again, this acts as a sort of short narrative or description or story of where we want to go over the next 7 years. And so we heard loud and clear the importance of planning from council and being proactive. So we wanted right up front to talk about being proactive, doing the foundational planning that's needed to reinforce reinforce infrastructure, to build capacity for services, and to really be responsive to need. We also heard loud and clear the concept of collaboration. So we drew those right up to the front of this segment. And then we went through an exercise in describing each of the 3 priorities. So I'm going to get us to move to our core services. And we broke these up in terms of recognizing that achievable levels of service is a really important feature of this next plan, is determining those and getting clear about what's required and making sure that they align to community need. And so the group decided it would be important to do a community profile study that would allow to do sort of a snapshot of where things are at with on the residential and business landscape. So kind of understanding where we're at and then moving forward with all these various other plans. So the asset and financial management piece was certainly a very critical part of the day in terms of discussion. And so the idea that we commit to implementing and maintaining our 20-year asset management plan, making sure we reduce gaps in core services, and with a focus on roads, bridges, water and sewers, and facility maintenance as well. Using a data-driven approach when we do our public works projects, and some best practices of what we're seeing other municipalities doing. Working in shared service delivery was a theme that came up throughout the course of the day, working more collaboratively with local government. And then really looking at multi-year budgeting and multi-year planning and fiscal responsibility. So looking at that longer term and being able to scope out what we can do at what pace in a sustainable way. So I didn't know if anybody had any comments on the asset and financial management piece. And again, you will find in the milestones much more detailed scoping of each of these pieces, but I again wanted just to check and see any comments. Going to take thumbs up.
Yeah, none noted, so things seems to be fine.
Community and economic development. Again, like a very rich part of the day. It was the discussion around developing and implementing a number of things to build community economic development, starting with a transportation master plan, really looking at strengthening fire services, bylaw enforcement, emergency preparedness. We actually talked about a business continuity plan, which will appear in the milestones, but there was a rich discussion during that part of our discussion when we wrote the plan. And then the whole piece around economic development, really fostering it and expanding commercial and industrial, the tax base for both, and attracting private sector and retail opportunities, and then looking at land development for commercial and industrial zones, and also expanding the innovation park. So again, these were things that you all identified, and we wanted just to sort of put them here as part of the story. I don't know if there's comments on this section.
I have a comment, actually. It's just as far as the economic development, like I guess those milestones, that's going to be fleshed out more in the milestones and what that looks like. Okay, because for right now, that's for me, like I think all of us sitting on council, it's important, but we don't know quite what that looks like, right? So I think we need to have that quite detailed as far as it guiding us forward, because I think we all have I'll say the mentality is that if you're staying put, you're taking steps back, and this is how we're going to grow. Is I think that caption there is important to really flesh out in the next phase of this document.
Okay, that's great advice. So the management team will pay particular attention to scaling and scoping that out with as much detail as possible. Thank you for that comment. Any other comments from other councillors? Okay.
None noted. Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to move us to recreation, culture, and heritage. And just a reminder that, you've got some really great programming. So going forward, assessing and delivering programming and services, and also core facilities that promote well-being and active living for residents is a really important part of the core services. And also collaborating with residents and collaborating with boards and collaborating with committees to get community input so that we can deliver sustainable programming. It's a fairly short description, and again, we'll map out some milestones on that piece. And I didn't know if there were any comments or feedback on that.
None noted.
Thank
We're good.
you. Okay. Priority B was actually at the end of the day, I asked you to tell me what your top, like if you're going to prioritize an order. And the general consensus amongst council was getting our planning and infrastructure, getting that sorted is number one. 2, better communication, information, and education with the community was your second one, which you said, this is very important for us going forward. And so we didn't write a huge amount, but we had a lot of conversations about how this will roll out. And you'll see this in the milestones as it pertains to websites and different tools and activities. But it really starts with an external communications plan that's focused predominantly on residents and key stakeholders to keep them informed and connected, making sure information is clear, it's timely, it's accessible, making sure you have the tools and the platforms to support it. And then dedicating the resources needed to ensure that you're strengthening communication, you're also meeting legislative requirements, and supporting growth. And so just ensuring that at any given time, the public can have easy access to the type of information they want. So it's not a big long description, but it's a fair amount of dedicated work, and it's the staff, the management team, very committed to making this work given the direction that council gave. And I, again, didn't know if you had comments or anything you want to add to this.
Again, everything seems fine.
Okay. On the strengthening our organization, so this is all the capacity and infrastructure at the organizational level that's required. So we again looked at your outcomes and bundled them, and we really wanted to emphasize the idea of having strategic HR, where both staff and council, who are, by the way, it's central and cornerstone to the organization's success and to your ability to deliver exceptional services, that there's support given to the people in the organization, a big investment in making sure that the workforce has what it needs in terms of recruitment, engagement, professional development, all the training, retention, recognition, and succession planning. And also the council gets supported through that process as well. So ensuring this is really making sure that the municipality's human resource plan is followed, that there's a continuous improvement in it, there's adjustments made as needed, and there is all tied to service levels, by the way. So there's a correlation between those two. There's quite a conversation about that. And also that at various points along the way, doing formal reviews to make sure the structure is both effective and efficient, because as things change and things grow, you'll need to do some retweaking. So that was that piece. I'm going to go through all of these actually, and then ask at the end if you have any comments. Internal communications was the idea of how do we integrate and communicate more effectively internally. So a lot of cross-departmental communication, integration, connectivity, doing more of that. And then the idea also that there be better and more robust ways of keeping staff and council connected by streamlining real-time information and using digital tools and making sure information is flowing back and forth, up and down and sideways. So there was quite a bit of discussion about that. Modernizing systems, a fairly clear understanding that municipality could be using a technology better. So modernizing some of its systems so that when residents are using services, it's a more enhanced process, so that processes are more consistent and they're more formal, and that new technologies are used to save time and money and optimize efficiencies. And so this is an area, again, you'll see much more detailed milestones on that, but it's a general sort of call to attention to make the systems and the platforms work more effectively to create efficiencies. And then the last piece that we talked quite a lot about, and I think the milestones will help with this piece, is how do we report to everybody on how this plan is doing? So management felt that it would be really important to develop, aside from the milestones document, to begin to develop an actual reporting framework that's tied back to the strategic plan and the milestones, that identifies key metrics, and in some cases they may be key performance indicators, but indicators that tell us we're on our way and we're doing well, so that council has the information it needs. And the other thing is data is collected to create baselines, so you can use data analysis to make informed decisions about various things, including your services. And not only will that inform better decisions, but I think the whole reporting process is really about transparency, being accountable, and then continual improving so you get more effective. So again, some statements around what management wants to do to strengthen the organization as per the direction set by council. Any comments on these particular sort of bundles of activity?
I would have one as far as the human resources bit goes.
Okay.
I think it's important for, it's important for me anyways, as long continue investing in our workforce. I love that idea, the prioritizing recruitment, and it's good, but it's like if we continue to hire on people, I think we got to make sure that we have the financial wherewithal to be able to continue to hire on more staff. So, to make sure that our growth in staff is in line with our financial abilities to do so. So I think that needs to be in the document as going forward, because again, look, we all know we need more staff. It's just a matter of making sure that we can afford it. I think that tone needs to be somewhere in the document going forward.
I love that advice. In fact, we did talk about that extensively. We didn't say it as pointedly, and I think the way you frame that is wonderful. Other comments from other councillors?
Wait,
Yep,
go ahead,
for it.
Mr. Lalonde, that's what.
Yeah, I'd like to see something about our specific demographics in the nation. I was looking at all the headlines and stuff, and if I look at modernizing systems, our goal is to optimize efficiencies. I'd like to see something where we try, and if we're optimizing efficiencies, but sort of in optimizing efficiencies directed towards the demographics or the specific demographics of the nation. I don't know if we have a demographic study that was done recently, but maybe try and have one. But sort of all we're doing here, like the strategic plan, is sort of geared towards the specific demographics of the nation. Are we our percentage, is it more geared towards retirement people, or young adults, young couples, sort of maybe have something mentioned in there?
I think that's a great point. And I want to say that at the very beginning, when we talked about doing that study right up front, there was an inference in that there'd be some demographic information, but I think you're asking for a bit more, which, I think is wise, because you're grounding it back on community needs. So thank you for that. We'll meet as a group and talk about how to integrate that. Thank you.
Mr. LaRue also has a comment, I think.
That's good. It was just I saw the same thing in regards to our, under the core services, the community profile study is where we'll dive into that information, trying to get all that information so that we make the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on this? I'm going to get you to our illustrious clerk to flip to the last page, because this is a summation. And this is a great thing, by the way, to put on a little card and give to all staff and even counselors, just to remember these are the key strategies we're undertaking as it pertains to each of our 3 priorities. And this is what the milestones document will work on. There'll be sub-themes within each of these strategies, and then we'll map out in more detail what we plan to achieve as it pertains to each activity. And I just want to confirm that we're comfortable with this framework, because this is what's going to guide our milestones development. Silence sometimes means thumbs up.
Yeah, I think this is everybody generally is fine with what's on the document.
Okay, fabulous. So the last thing that I'd like to do is go back up to the top of the document, and in the interest of time, I'm actually going to ask our CA LaRue to track numbers, but I'm going to ask people to put their hands up and tell me which vision statement they like best, because often I find a group of people, 5 out of 7 people say, I really like this one. 2 will say, I like it, but I like this one better. And then sometimes we integrate 2 together. We get the ideas of 2 and put them together. Councillor Drolet, I do know what you voted for. So, but I'm gonna ask if we could do this, that you put your hand up if the option that I yell out is your preferred option. So for the vision now, we're going to go through 4 options, and Mr. Leroux, will you track for me? Option 1, who votes for that is their top option? And I don't need to know who, I just need to know numbers so we can kind of navigate a consensus discussion. So option 1 is your preferred.
Nobody on that one.
Okay, option 2.
Okay, so Councillor, so we have 1 for option 1.
1 for option 1, okay. And so for option 2.
Just put your hands up. And nobody for number 2.
Okay. Option 3.
We have 3 for number 3.
Okay, and then option 4.
Then we have 2 for 4.
Am I missing someone? I've got a total count of 6.
7. So option 1 is 2.
Oh, 2. Option 1 is 2. Okay.
Yeah. Nobody for option 2. Option 3 is 3, and option 4 is 2.
Okay. So now I wanted, if that's the case, we can remove option 2. So we're not even looking at it. And I guess what I want to ask is the following, again, in the interest of time, and I don't want to put pressure on anyone because we can spend as much time as you wish talking about this, but option 3 is the one that's got 1 vote above the other 2. I would ask someone who voted for option 3 to tell me why you liked it over the others, if you would. One of the 3 people that put their hands up. Do I have a brave soul who's willing to share?
What I like about option 3 is from the beginning I always mentioned rural and urban landscape in the nation. If, you know, I agree with option 1, but the reason why I went specifically with option 3 is it has rural and urban landscapes. You know, I'm okay with 1, but if we go with 1, you know, find a way to add urban and rural and urban, because to me, the vision is directed towards our municipality, and it's definitely rural and urban. It's not either one.
Okay, I appreciate that point because you're spot on. That was the distinguishing factor when we got to that one. I want to actually go to option 4, which had 2 people. And I want to ask a question around option 4. It actually, full transparency, stacks all the ideas in there. And for some people, they may have felt it was too long. But is there anyone that is against option 4? Or I'm trying to figure out, are option 1, 2, or option 3, option 1, 3, and 4 palpable to everyone? Because at a certain point with consensus, I'm going to ask, can you live with this? If 5 people, because I would like to get this down to 2 and then have a revote. So I'm going to put it open to the group and see. I'd like someone to knock one of these out of the equation and tell me why you would like to take it out of the equation.
For me, I think option 4 seems like too long of a sentence. Like, I feel like we need to either make 2 sentences or change the, I don't know, I feel like there's too many commas. It's too long.
Okay.
It doesn't flow as nicely as the other one to me. That's just me, but the French here could be okay in English. I don't know. Just saying.
So I'm going to ask the following question. And again, I can't see you. It's harder for me to do this exercise without reading the room. But could we look at option 1 and 3? And because now we would have 2, the first 2 people voted on 1, and then 3 voted on 3. Now, if I was going to ask you to vote on 1 or 3, could we do that again between the 7 and see where they land?
Why don't we blend the 2? Why don't we take
could.
option 1 and 3 and blend? I think I'll tell you, I voted for option 4, and I'm going to share Mr. Lalande's sentiment as far as the rural and urban landscapes. I think that's an important.
Okay.
So why don't we take option 1 and throw the urban and rural aspect in it, and I would be fine with that, no problem.
Can I check in and ask Mr. Leroux, would you look around and see if people would nod? Because we will come back with them both together in slightly different ways. There'll be grammatical variances on it, but we would combine 1 and 3 together to ensure that that rural and urban landscape piece fits in and holds the best of both sentences. People
I think the majority of council would be okay with that approach.
Okay. So we're going to take that direction and come back. We'll probably have 2. They'll be quite similar. I don't think they will materially be different in terms of content. I think it'll be more about how they flow. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So I'm going to move to mission next. And again, I'm going to move you down. We have only 2 options for mission. And not because we didn't spend as much time working on it, just the way that we sort of ended up streamlining them. So again, I want to just do a vote, just for in the interest of time. Who likes option 1 the most, and could we get a count on that?
So we've got 5 for option 1. 6.
6.
6. So we've got 6 for option 1.
Okay, so at the risk of putting our 7th on the spot, and I'm about to do it, what is it you liked better about option 2? Just so we can pull that
Because
out.
I'm thinking outside the box, and I'm always outside the box compared to my fellow compatriots.
Is there, which is fair and wonderful, because that's your job, is to ensure divergence on the council. But is there a particular piece of this one that you feel, content-wise, that you would like to see integrated into one, or can you live with one? When you look at one, are you like, actually, I'm okay with that?
Where I come from, a mission is like a short and sweet, one phrase, and option 2 was 4 or 5 words shorter than the first one.
Yeah.
But it's still too long for me because, mission, boom, boom, boom. And it's one sentence, but that's where I come from, so I can't enforce this here.
Can you live with one, or would you make a recommendation that we come back with one shorter? I mean, we could cut words.
I definitely can live with it because it's in the nation, in my municipality. Of course I can live with it.
Okay. So, because consensus to me is always that you can live with it. You might not be your favorite. You might not love all of it. I want to check in now with the other 6 councillors. Would you like to see it shortened? That's the recommendation.
Can add. The thing I really like in option 1 is the word partnership. But what I like in option 2, it's the fact that you said current and future generation, and not just all generations. So I like the future. So that's something maybe we can put in option 1.
So we could stay with 1 and then ensure the current and future goes into 1. And you said, and the other piece that you liked?
I really like in option 1 the thing meaningful partnership.
Partnerships,
So
okay, that's helpful. Others who liked option 1, any other comments on how we might be able to pieces that were really
I was going to
important?
say, originally, actually, last week when I read this, I voted for option 2, and now I reread them today, and now option 1. So I feel like I haven't decided yet. I feel like I'm in the between. I like some stuff in the 1, but others in 2. But I'm kind of with Mr. Lalonde. I prefer if it would be more like straight to the point, like more concise.
Okay. Other feedback and comments from folks, we will do our best. We will come back with the shortest thing we can come up with, and then we'll do some iterative, because I will point out the obvious. When you take out a phrase, you take out a key piece of content, right? So if sustainable growth is really important and we take it out, people may say, put it back in again. But I would like to see if there's any additional direction from folks.
None are noted here. I think everybody's
Okay, so
fine.
I'm going to take it that we will work with option 1. We will include current and future generations, and we will look at trying to parse or shorten it down so it's more to the point and less wordy. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think we're getting consensus on that approach.
Okay. The very last thing I'd like to do is I'd like to draw your eyes down to the value statements on the next page, and I'd like to ask if everybody is comfortable with these particular value statements. We did ask you to share what values you thought were important, and a number that you shared hit this list. We also talked amongst ourselves as a team around what staff think is important. And by the way, we also scanned the whole document to see what words were used quite a lot and what themes arose from the day. And I would argue sustainability, transparency, adaptability, and collaboration were 4 that were very strong themes throughout the course of the day. Not that dedicated wasn't, but we didn't get into the details of a value statement on that. I think for the management team, there's a feeling that there's a really good energy and a passion and a dedication to make things happen and to hold on to that and to really nurture that culture. So I'm just going to open it up and see if anybody disagrees with a value statement or would like it reframed or would like something else added or changed.
For myself, I think as far as the collaboration piece, foster teamwork, unity across communities, I think we need to put neighboring municipalities and not just municipalities in general. I think
Great.
I think that's something that brings it closer to home, and it's more focus oriented where we can share services with neighboring municipalities.
It's a great insight. It's a great insight because that's what you talked about that day. So I think that's more precise. Thank you for that. So we can add neighboring to municipalities and collaboration. Other things that are striking you as you read these?
I think everybody's okay with what's there.
Okay. Well, for the moment then, I'm going to put it forward to council. Could we get general consensus that we can move forward with this document, move towards the milestones, and make those adjustments to the document as you've all laid out over the last 43 minutes? And then we will bring something back at a special meeting in May, at which time CA LaRue will set that up. I think he and I talked today about scheduling, and there's some issues around a variety of current council days, so it'd likely be a special meeting. And the bulk of that time would be focused on reviewing milestones, answering questions, refining them, and then going back to the strategic plan. And our goal would be to actually have a motion passed that you approve the document pending ratifications on the things that you suggest be changed in the meeting. So that is the next step if everybody agrees, and I'll just pause for a moment and see if that is appropriate next step for everyone.
It seems like from all the nodding heads that I think you're getting consensus that it's fine to go forward with what we have now.
Okay, I'm going to close and let you all get on with your business, but I do want to say it's been an inordinate pleasure working with the management team. They are rock stars. It was a wonderful 2 days we worked together, and our full day group on February the 18th filled me with joy and buoyancy for a number of weeks after. And you know what? These plans are always about the people. So I'm just holding up a little mirror to say that I'm very excited to see how this all unfolds, and I'm excited to move into the next stage of milestones with your very excellent management team and with your excellent leadership. So I will close now and let you get on with things, okay?
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Much appreciated. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Parfait. Alors, Monsieur Leroux, est-ce que vous voulez passer une résolution ce soir pour approuver l'ébauche comme telle, ou est-ce qu'on continue?
No, it's a living document. We just wanted to make sure that we had a general sense of if the direction we were going in was the right direction. So I think no need to pass a resolution. We know which direction we're going in, so appreciate it.
Merci.
On va faire les items de consentement maintenant parce que on a une autre présentation à 5h30. Donc,
c'est ça.
OK.
Alors, est-ce qu'il y a des items que vous voulez retirer de les items par consentement pour une discussion plus approfondie? Non, tout est beau? Parfait. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que tous les items énumérés sous 7 items par consentement soient reçus et approuvés tels que présentés. Proposé par M. Stewart, appuyé par M. Falk. Tous d'accord? Parfait. Ensuite, est-ce que vous voulez aller avec l'item 8.1? Oui. Alors, celui-ci est le rapport pour le parc proposé pour le cénotaphe, je crois. Alors, Monsieur Leroux.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Roy. Vous avez tous eu la chance de lire le rapport comme tel. Ça fait suite à la présentation qu'on a eue une couple de semaines passées. Alors, il y a une recommandation que on va de l'avant avoir des discussions préliminaires avec le school board. Ça étant dit, that council doesn't make any definite commitment at this stage. I think, as based in the report, I think it's a little early to commit ourselves fully to something we don't exactly know what would be involved. And with all the growth we're seeing in the village of Limoges, I think we should have a better understanding where our parks are going to be active and passive parks in the future. So my recommendation is that we go ahead, start talking with the school board, the concept. I'll just throw in, I did throw an option in there to as a possible temporary site that would allow us to move much quicker in the process where we wouldn't have to be involved in the school board. But I'm just presenting that to council for discussion and consideration.
I think my general consensus is that as long as the veterans know that we're working in good faith and that we want to partner up with them in the long run, I think that's something that's that needs to be the general tone of how we're going forward. It's important because there is a group of dedicated volunteers that are working on this project, and I want to make sure they feel supported while going through this process. So that's kind of been my approach, and as far as expediting something, if it means that we need to label it temporary or not, that'll be up to us to discuss that when the report comes back in. But I think, like I said, I want to make sure that they feel supported and that they know they have a true partner with us going forward with this project. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres commentaires? Any other comments as far as that goes?
Just you've pretty much summed it up. Thank you.
We'll receive your report, and then after that, I think we can give you direction to continue the discussions with the school board and to see how we can make this project come to life and going forward.
Alors, est-ce que la résolution proposée serait be it resolved that council direct the administration to begin discussions with the CSDCAO regarding the Limoges Commemorative Park proposal aligned with the committee's vision? Would that be okay?
I would.
Okay, perfect. Let me just take the proposal right now. Proposed by Mme Drolet et appuyé par M. Boisvenu.
Everybody okay with this? Tout le monde est d'accord? Okay, super.
So at this stage, just to confirm, Mr. Mayor, we're committed to having those discussions with the school board, but we're not committing to anything at this stage with the committee until we have a more realistic view of what this will all entail. Okay, perfect.
Agreed, but I think that we should commit to support our veterans and the Cenotaph Committee in the project, though, be it going forward. That being
Yes,
said.
definitely. Once we have a better understanding, the administration will have discussions with the group, talk about all the options, and see, because I do understand from their perspective, they would like to see something quicker rather than later.
Yes, but being at all those meetings every month, I think they're realistic also in the amplitude of the project also, knowing that we do have work to do in the background and that they have a lot of work to do on their side with Veterans Affairs and soliciting some of the residents also. So, thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Alors, le prochain point, au 8.2, est le rapport suivant la présentation pour la Maison Saint-Viateur. Alors, M. Leroux.
Merci beaucoup, Mme Roy. Vous avez le rapport devant vous. Évidemment, c'est très clair. Voici une business privée qui demande pour possiblement de l'aide, que ce soit, mais section 106 de la loi municipale est très claire when it comes to bonusing or helping out individual businesses. It's not permitted. there's things you can do with community improvement plans or making rules in regards to your development charges, but that applies to everybody in general. Whereas this is a very specific case, where essentially, if we were to help this private business, who's going to pick up that shortfall of revenue that was coming down the road? It would ultimately be the taxpayers. So I think, as I said in this study, we're basically receiving their presentation, but there's no extra action, no other action to take at this point in time from the administration's point of view. That's our recommendation.
Any questions or comments concerning the report? Okay.
Alors, qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil reçoive la présentation au sujet du projet de la maison de retraite Saint-Viateur à titre d'information seulement, sans aucune action requise. Proposé par M. Lalonde.
M. Lalonde, M. Stewart. Tous d'accord? OK, c'est adopté.
Parfait. Je crois qu'on a le temps pour un autre au moins.
Oui.
Alors, le 8.3, le rapport concernant l'entente avec Mike's Waste Disposal. Alors, M. Desforges.
Bonjour, je suis un membre du Conseil. Comme vous avez pu voir sur le rapport, notre contrat vient en échéance à la fin décembre de cette année. Puis, ça fait déjà plusieurs mois que j'ai en discussion avec l'entreprise, puis on fait des démarches pour vérifier auprès de d'autres entreprises puis d'autres municipalités. Donc, Mike Waste était d'accord de pouvoir renouveler son contrat pour un autre 5 ans. Puis, avec les prix du marché, présentement, sont encore un petit peu en bas du prix de marché. Donc, je recommande au Conseil de pouvoir aller de l'avant avec une extension de contrat de 5 ans, étant donné que le service est très bon présentement. Puis on ne sait pas qu'est-ce qui s'en vient prochainement avec le compost, la loi du compost, la loi de peut-être jumeler notre service avec d'autres municipalités. Donc, avec un contrat de 5 ans, là, ça nous donne la chance de pouvoir élaborer et étudier de qu'est-ce qu'il y en a. Puis, pour donner un petit heads-up aussi, sur la GFL, ils ont accepté là, aussi là, une entente de 20 ans, là, donc sans compensation. Ça fait qu'on va pouvoir aller de l'avant, on va être bien placé sur le côté des vidanges.
Questions, commentaires? Moi, je suis d'accord avec toi, M. Desforges. Je pense qu'on peut y aller de l'avant. Puis les ententes, là, je pense que c'est très raisonnable, 1,75 par année. Là. Je pense qu'on s'en va chercher une bonne deal.
Oui, comme on avait évalué le CPI comme index, Consumer Price Index, puis on a figuré que ça peut être plus haut ou plus bas dans différentes années. Puis je pense qu'avec 1,75, on est bien là, avec tout ce qui se passe avec les tarifs et tout. Donc, je crois bien qu'on est bien placé pour les 5 prochaines années.
OK.
Parfait. Donc, celui-ci n'a pas de résolution vu que l'entente serait enterrée en règlement plus tard.
On a-tu le temps, Réunion? Ben oui.
On prend le risque. Alors, le prochain est le rapport suivant la demande pour un jardin communautaire. Je crois que c'est M. Pouliot ou M. Leroux qui va en parler, peut-être.
Le 24 février, la demande pour un jardin communautaire à Limoges. On nous a demandé de trouver un terrain, un emplacement pour le jardin communautaire. Ce qu'on vous recommande, ce qu'on vous suggère, c'est le terrain au 135 Herbert. On a déjà un petit garage municipal. Puis, à côté et derrière le garage, il y a amplement de place pour un jardin communautaire. Encore là, ceci, c'est juste une recommandation du terrain. Ensuite, là, il y aurait d'autres étapes à suivre avec le groupe communautaire en tant que tel. On a aussi spécifié dans le rapport qu'on n'allouera pas de ruches d'abeilles ni de plantation d'arbres. Pour les jardins surélevés, là, par terre, c'est correct, mais pas de ruches d'abeilles puis pas de plantation d'arbres. Donc, c'est ce qu'on vous recommande.
Est-ce qu'on est correct avec ça? Je pense qu'aussi, il y a dans le rapport, on voit, je pense que le groupe aussi, il faut qu'il s'organise aussi. Il y a certaines étapes qu'eux autres, il faut qu'ils, à cette heure, qu'ils voient nous autres, on est prêts à rencontrer un peu leur demande, mais eux autres aussi ont bien d'ouvrages à faire. Fait que je pense que ça, à cause qu'on a identifié un terrain, ça ne veut pas dire qu'au jour au lendemain, qu'il va y avoir des
Exactement.
Ils ont d'ouvrages à faire. Fait que...
Alors,
D'autres questions, commentaires, oui?
Est-ce que dans l'entente, quand ils sont venus le présenter, qu'ils n'avaient pas mentionné qu'ils voulaient avoir des abeilles?
Oui, c'est ça. C'était dans leur, c'était dans
c'était
leur
dans leur
demande,
show.
mais on ne laissera pas de ruche
Ah,
d'abeilles dans le
pas
village de
ouais,
Limoges.
moi non plus, dans le village.
Non.
D'autres questions, commentaires? OK.
Merci.
Alors qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve en principe l'utilisation de la propriété municipale située au 135 rue Herbert pour l'aménagement d'un jardin communautaire dirigé et géré par la communauté à Limoges et que l'administration soit autorisée à travailler à l'élaboration d'une entente formelle une fois que le groupe de bénévoles sera enregistré en tant qu'organisme officiel. Proposé par...
Monsieur Bovenu, Madame Delallais. Tous d'accord? OK, c'est adopté.
oui.
Maintenant, je pense qu'on va manquer de temps. Il
Oui.
reste seulement 4 minutes. Fait qu'on...
Alors, je vais laisser le temps à Mme Langlois-Caisse de faire le changement d'audio afin qu'on puisse tous entendre la présentation. Bon.
Lindsay, can you hear us?
We can, yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll get started in just a minute. Members of Council, with us this evening we have the team from Rural Impact Canada who are going to be making a presentation. As you know, I had reached out to Rural Impact Canada to look at the possibility of how, thinking outside the box, what could be possible for our aging community center sites and what could be done to see a feasibility study, in a sense, to know what are our options. So with us this evening, I'll introduce Miss Lindsay Blair, who is in charge of this group, and she'll be able to make the presentations and go through the presentation itself. Thank you. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's really nice to be here this evening to provide an update, essentially on some of the work that we've been doing so far. It's also nice to be here at 5:30 and to not be in the dark. So spring is upon us. I'm going to share our slideshow. And when I share it, I can't see really anyone, and I see that the camera's turned off anyways, but just put up the hand if someone's got a question as we're going through the presentation, and I'll stop and answer questions.
So
just,
Lindsay?
Yep.
Lindsay, if there is a member of I was going to say a member of council that has a question, I'll just jump in and let you know.
Perfect. Just interrupt me. And I think, Nick, you've got that up there. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So as Pierre said, we actually started talking with one another early last fall. And Pierre approached our team and outlined to us that there was one particular community center, but actually three, that needed immediate capital upgrades. And as he noted, an innovative possible outlook on what could be done given some of the costs that were being presented, and asked our team, if we could explore some different possibilities. And so our team did two things. We reviewed the three community centers that were highlighted to us, and then also and reviewed them from an operation standpoint, municipal operation standpoint. And then we've also started looking at each of the individual properties themselves from a development standpoint. So these are the two approaches of work we've undertaken so far, and that we're continuing at this point. So next slide. So tonight, we're really here to introduce ourselves to Council, provide a high-level overview of the work that Rural Impact Canada has been doing so far with Pierre and Guylaine, and Rick is our short form for our name there. We're going to go through kind of the pathway that we see forward, at least for one of the particular community centers, and then just to take some questions from Council. Next slide. So first and foremost, just to provide an overview of who Rural Impact Canada is. So Rural Impact Canada was born out of the Housing Supply Challenge. I think many are familiar with the work that Frontenac County started doing several years ago relating to supporting development when there wasn't full municipal water and sewer services. And in 2023, I led a submission to CMHC to essentially highlight how we could create a step-by-step guide to help municipalities create a municipal services corporation to address a range of issues, primarily water and wastewater infrastructure, but in reality, how to use an MSC to break down many municipal barriers and hurdles that we often find in small and rural municipalities, and to create a step-by-step guide to do so, because one actually didn't exist. So that was the mandate we set out to do. We also interlaced with that mandate my background. And I have 16 years of experience in developing projects and have a primary focus in developing affordable housing projects across Eastern Ontario. So overall, what Rural Impact Canada is here to do is to really support small and rural municipalities across Canada to solve the housing crisis through providing support, tools, and resources, and to use some of our tools that we've created, which we refer to as our programs. One being the Municipal Services Corporation program, and one being the Municipal Housing Development program. So our mission is to just break down system level barriers that are often found in rural and small municipalities, which is they're often very different than what you see municipalities faced with in the urban context. And so we wanted to develop solutions that are more specific to those unique challenges that small and rural municipalities face. And we do this by creating programs. So we have our service programs developed around tools and mechanisms that municipalities could consider using, such as Municipal Services Corporation, and also programs that are meant to help, I guess, understand and realize the type of development opportunities that could exist on existing municipal lands, whether that's vacant municipal lands that municipal buildings are on, or lands such as community centers, and figuring out and understanding ways to create immediate support and long-term supports and benefit from those properties. Next slide. And so our areas of focus are on housing and supporting housing and mixed-use development. Mixed-use development is really needed as well to be supported in rural and small communities, bringing in that economic aspect. Another area of focus for us with our Municipal Services Corporation program is on utilities. primarily water and wastewater servicing, and helping develop economic frameworks with the experts that we work with, that we've been able to develop and cultivate as part of the work we're doing with CMHC. We also are doing a range of research and advocacy and developing tools that we think municipalities and or developers could be utilizing to help speed up development or overcome existing hurdles or challenges. So just a quick overview of who our partners are and our supporters. So we've received funding from CMHC. 2B Developments is actually the other company that I own that I have all my development experience with. Our stage 1 submission to the Housing Supply Challenge was done with the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. We're also supported by Foresight Canada, Pivot Housing Solutions, and the others you see on the other side of the slide there. Next slide. So an example of current clients and projects. So the Nation municipality, we have engaged with the Nation, with Pierre, to review these the 3 primary community center locations, to review how do we create a financially viable path forward, either within the current operations or exploring alternative paths forward, which could include adding in housing and the different options associated with that. We're also supporting the Township of South Frontenac, the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe, and also the municipality of North Grenville. And we are working with a range of developers, both for-profit and private or nonprofit, one of which just got funding last week from Perth, Ontario, $12.3 million, which is often funding in that amount that you don't see in rural and small municipalities. And that's some of the impact that we're really trying to bring to rural and small municipalities across Canada. So next slide. So our work with the Nation. Next slide. So when we first spoke with Pierre, really the immediate discussion was around 3 sites across the municipality that required significant capital upgrades and cost to facilitate those upgrades, and really a path that wasn't determined on how to make those upgrades possible financially, and an ongoing long-term operation plan for the community centers. So that's where our team started the work, and we did a few things. So what we're trying to do in the work that we've started is provide avenues for funding for the municipality to maybe cover some initial cost. So we're applying to FCM for the planning grant applications. And that actually is what's being used to help cover our fees, so that the municipality doesn't have to pay us, as well to possibly cover some other activities that may be beneficial for the municipality to conduct. That could be retaining other consultants to do some preliminary assessments of the existing properties, or contribute to the development strategy that we are developing for each of the community centers. Next slide. So our work started in the fall, and where we did start our work first was going through the existing operations of the community centers and determining whether or not exploring creating a municipal services corporation could be a solution first, and if it was a solution that the municipality should consider taking on. And our work to date from 2025 has been just providing Pierre and Galen updates on that work, and then also refining our strategy going forward. And that refinement has really been, let's focus on the actual development of each property, and maybe not necessarily going through the MSC approach, so that we can actually determine and develop a more immediate action plan to help get these community centers upgraded with long-term financially viable plans. Next slide. And so really the pathway forward is integrating housing in order to access capital at low interest rates, to access grants, and the majority of the funding programs that we apply to successfully for our projects, adding in housing is what's going to make any project financially viable. And so that is what we're working on right now for one of the particular sites in St. Albert, is what does this look like if we were to add housing to it? How could you? and how much, and what does that look like from both maybe a municipality owning it, but also maybe a nonprofit group owning it too. So those are the two paths we're looking at right now. So next slide. And so we've developed a strategy that takes in consideration some of the updates that we have gotten from Pierre and his team. We do know that there has been some community discussions specifically around the St. Albert Community Center, and that there's maybe interest and a volunteer group assuming the community center. So ultimately, what does this mean? How do we maybe help facilitate this actually happening? So that's where we've focused our work right now and going, you know, if a volunteer group wanted to take over the property, and if that volunteer group created a nonprofit to do so, how could they access funding themselves to not only upgrade the existing property and buildings on site, but to also create long-term success for themselves, and it to not be an issue that has to be revisited in maybe 10 years. So adding in the housing has been the component. And we've been exploring two possible ways to do that. And I think, Nick, I'll have you go to the next slide. It kind of explains that. Oh, so go back to the slide there. I won't go to this one yet. So as the slide says too, this is our first focus. We've decided to center all of our energy on the St. Albert Community Center at this point. And we're exploring right now two different possibilities. You know, if a group was to come to the table to possibly assume the ownership of the property and the responsibilities to upgrade it, how could they do this? And I think ultimately where we're coming at this is we all want to see something happen. And while there may be a group interested in taking over the responsibility to make that happen, they still also have to get capital to make it happen. So we've been exploring two different models, a cooperative model. So what does this look like if the group were to develop a cooperative? And what does this look like if the group just wanted to create a nonprofit? There is a third element, which is if a group was a private organization and they wanted to assume it. There's obviously some benefits if a group were to explore taking over the property, if they were cooperative or a nonprofit. So as part of the work we're doing right now, it's actually finalizing what the financial feasibility of this would look like, what the actual steps would be for a group to take. And we think that this is beneficial because, you know, if the property is going to be sold, there's going to be several steps that have to be taken. And if we can create the path that help line those steps up and make it clear to an organization, it's going to increase the chances of something actually happening. So we're putting this together and essentially writing a guide. And if the guide starts to come together and is one that we want to proceed with, whether the municipality or another group, it's one that we could actually replicate for all the community center sites that we may want to look at. So as a first step, which would probably take the majority of this year, we're putting together what these steps are for the first site. But again, the idea being is this could be a model and an approach that the municipality could consider maybe for the one or two more community center sites. And so to finalize our next steps, we've done an FCM application. We can complete a further application to CMHC. And again, all this just really helps unlock a bit of funding to help the municipality go through some initial steps to prepare the land through some pre-development that would help another group maybe take it over. Or, the other option that we are putting on the table that the municipality can still consider is to issue an RFP just to the public to assume it. Maybe not for this one, because I know there have been quite a few conversations, but for some of the other ones and other possible sites that are looked at, ultimately in our experience, putting an RFP together with some foundational studies and reports completed by consultants really increase the chances of success in terms of getting a number of bids and competitive bids. So the work can also be progressed to support that aspect of these properties. So next slide. So as I've kind of said already, our goal right now is to formulate what could be an approach with multiple different paths. Again, whether it's a nonprofit or co-op, maybe the municipality is involved to a certain degree, or it goes to the public. But all the work we're doing right now would be replicable by the municipality if they wanted to explore this on other sites. So this just speaks to some of the outcomes we're modeling. And so I think that this is important. In terms of understanding financial feasibility, there's a balance between reasonability and what's likely to get funded. I've come across many development sites where people want to say, you know, we want to build 6 stories and 100 housing units. And sometimes it's just, you know, we have to bring everyone down to a reality check. What is likely going to get funded? Because we have to honestly lead through the work that we do, knowing that we're going to have a high chance of success, and also what's reasonable for the community. And that falls back to the fabric and the density of the existing community that a property is in. So what we've modeled right now is an increase of density on the site of 36 units. We've kind of modeled where those 36 units could actually be constructed without impacting too much the existing parking and rear aspects of the property. And we've modeled it under 2 different approaches. So if a nonprofit were to be formed to build this, or a co-op, and some aspects of it is, you know, really what the affordability means if you were to add housing to this. And so right now we have determined that 36 units is financially feasible at affordability or rental rates of about $1,000 a month. And this is $1,000 a month inclusive of utilities. So a very high level of affordability when, you know, we look at what's out on the market right now. When we look at what's going to be financially feasible, that's anywhere from a DCR of 1, meaning the project can cover every expense with $1 of revenue, up to 1.1. And those are normally the targets you have to meet to qualify for CMHC funding too. And so this outcome that we're modeling right now is being modeled on the basis that CMHC would fund it. We've demonstrated that we can get this type of funding for projects. It's very similar to the one we just got funded. You know, I think it helps highlight potential that could be realized on the site while also solving an on-site issue right now, which is how do we pay for capital upgrades? So in the modeling we're doing, we are also carrying capital costs for the actual community centers too. Next slide. So over the next couple of weeks and months, there's things we're working on that you as council can expect to get from us. So we're going to be completing a project pro forma and a full financial feasibility study on the basis of adding residential housing to the site and what that could look like. We're actually going to develop a few different models of very basic concept plans, but just to give an idea of what does 36 units actually look like on this property. It can sound like a lot, but then when you model it and you put that footprint on a site, it's sometimes you get a different perspective. So we want to do that as well, just to demonstrate, you know, how this might look to the general public on the site, and that will come with some initial renderings too. And I think when we're looking at what we're trying to achieve in this work is something happening, and something happening as soon as possible on the site, not just, you know, for housing, but actually the primary purpose of finding a way to access capital funding to improve the existing community center and to keep it in operation. So these are what you can expect in the next update, probably 2 months from now. And the work that we've done. When it comes to what you can expect of the work we're doing, and kind of going back and forth with Pierre and Galen, and maybe sometimes annoying them, is our team has a lot of capacity. We have a lot of expertise, and we're very good at putting together strategies. And so the one thing I would also encourage is if council tonight really doesn't like what we've talked about right now, there's no hard feelings, and we can rework our plan. We definitely want feedback, and we want to have a good understanding of whether or not this is aligning with any expectations of council or if we're on track. But that is what you can expect of us. We're ultimately very passionate about first supporting rural and small communities, demonstrating that they're a key to addressing the housing crisis across Canada and that they're worth investing in. And we're really pushing hard on a lot of applications right now to get the funding to projects like this, or that could be like this. So next slide. So questions. We'll take the presentation off screen and open up the floor.
Okay, I think we got a few questions going forward.
So good. So thank you very much, Danick Forg, Councillor for Ward 3 in Saint-Albert. So thank you. It's interesting to think outside the box, and at that point, you don't have the choice to be creative with all the reality that we live in. So in Saint-Albert right now, like Monsieur Leroux already tell you, we have a non-profit group who are already in the work to make that happen, and if it's all things go well in the end of the year, say can transfer the property. So we are like in a time like we'll have. It will be important for Monsieur Leroux and the team to introduce them too in the dance, if we can say, and make sure that everyone is involved at the right time. I know they want to present at the council in a couple of weeks. So after that, say we'll have officially like a group involved and can play all together, and just that I have on the mind.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's, we would love to be introduced to them and support them. We'll make sure that they are comfortable first and do their presentation. But to your point, if we can all dance together and bring this project forward, we're definitely willing to be that partner to them.
I think it's important for the residents that are getting involved that this is very high level thinking, and that we're not committing to much here as far as getting them on board, and this may seem overwhelming for a lot of people. So I think we have to be very careful to make sure that everybody understands this is very high level thinking, and that we're not committed to very much right now, because again we don't know, like, the feasibility of the whole thing is important, and everybody has to know the financial modeling going forward and how these things are going to go in the future. So I just want to reassure all the groups that are getting involved that this is not, don't get scared for what we're talking about today, because again, we are talking about groups that are volunteers that are, this is, when you say 36 units there, that's millions of dollars, and I don't want to scare anybody off. And this is very, very high level thinking, and there's no commitments to anything. So I just want to make sure that our groups know that this is just on the draft board, and that we're just looking at feasibility things, and like I said, just going forward, that we're not committing to anything.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Mr. Mayor, in this case, this is one possible path forward, right? I mean, the RIC will do their investigation. Hopefully we get the funding from FCM, so which allows this to move forward, so they can do that type of work. And once the work is done, as Lindsay said, it's a potential path forward, right? It's a document that potential groups can take and look at it as one potential option. But just doing this study itself doesn't engage us to anything. We're not committing to anything. We're just looking to help support our groups as much as possible, and say, depending at who's at the table, here's one possible option. So I think that having as much information as possible is never a bad thing, and making sure that everybody has the right information moving forward. So, Lindsay?
Yeah, and I just to add, we're really here to just support how we can, and what I would see as a next step forward for us. So, and one thing I'll add too, if for whatever reason we don't get the FCM funding, our group's very committed. We're going to stay on to continue the work and the deliverables that we've talked about, because That's our mandate. So that aside, when the group presents and if they want to move forward, what I really see one of our next steps being is coming out to the site and meeting them, and sitting down and not just maybe looking at what we've modeled so far, but there's a range of things that you can model. Housing is going to be key in what we support with, and really going to be their easiest path to getting funding. But we have a baseline and kind of a model that we can play with. And so we can actually start to run some scenarios. And I think the other thing too that we would probably do is information and education is very powerful to groups who have never done this before. The majority of our clients we work with have never done this before. And so bringing examples and really walking groups through, this is actually the funding we got here. This is actually the cost of that project. This is the actual timeline that you'd have to be committed to wanting to see a project, go through construction. It's a huge time commitment. And so that would really be one of the next things that we would do to just help support a group, and put them on the path. I mean, our team very transparently would love to work and support that group through the whole process. But ultimately, if we just set them up on the first step, of the many, we're also very okay to just make sure that they have a strong foundation going forward.
Hi, Lindsay. Tim Stewart here, Councillor. Thanks for the presentation. Interesting stuff. Just kind of outside the municipal bit, but did you say you do this with private developers in small communities as well?
Rural Impact Canada doesn't. Through my development company, I do help support private developers. Rural Impact Canada helps support private developers who are trying to develop using alternative approaches to servicing, or have servicing issues. So those would be the private ones we work with.
Servicing, sorry, means like water, sewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So working with developers who are facing obstacles with water, sewer, electricity, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like a main thing, right, is making sure that if land's going to be developed within the context and the reasonability of it, that it's not inefficiently built. And one aspect that we do a lot of research on and try to advocate for to maybe address some of the financial framework that municipalities are working within. Rural sprawl is super dangerous to municipalities. And when it comes to maintaining the roads, collecting the garbage, for very sprawled out housing versus housing that can be a little bit more densified, not only, reducing kind of that per kilometer of road cost, but then actually has a higher chance of bringing in affordability. So that's a lot of the work we'll do with larger developers who, come to us and go, we don't want to build a rural estate subdivision that we have to sell the properties for at $1 million because that's just how we're going to break even. We want to build stacked 4 or 6 unit buildings and add in more density to create more affordability. So that's going to be the type of work that you'll see us support on from the private developer side.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments concerning the presentation? Okay, well, like I said, I think we all look forward to your next steps going forward. I think from our perspective, I think from yours as well, is just make sure the funding is there from FCM. I think that'll be the next key milestone from our perspective going forward. I mean, the amount of work that you've put in so far, and to make sure that everybody is doing work that's worthwhile completing. The FCM grant is going to be vital, I think, going forward. So,
yeah.
Anyways, thanks for your time.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Lindsay. Have a great evening.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, so while Madame Langlois-Case switches over the audio, would you like to go on break? Perfect, thank you. So we'll break for half an hour. Merci. sommes de retour live.
Welcome back, everyone. Je pense qu'on est rendu à 8,5. C'est bien ça?
Oui, alors, Monsieur Lafrance, c'est pour les frais.
Donc, bonsoir, je suis un membre du Conseil. Il y a environ un mois, je vous ai présenté des prix pour les prochaines saisons de hockey puis pour le terrain de soccer. J'ai fait une erreur dans ce rapport-là. Je vous présente les mêmes augmentations, mais avec les bons prix. Puis en même temps, en préparation pour 2026, on a commencé à avoir un double de demande, surtout à la salle GFL pour des locations 2026. Donc, afin d'éviter aux employés de faire des 0$, ensuite de retourner en arrière puis mettre les bons prix pour 2026, je propose des prix de salle pour 2026.
Est-ce qu'on a des questions, commentaires concernant les prix qui ont été suggestés? OK.
C'est bon. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve les tarifs mis à jour de location de salle pour 2026 afin de soutenir les réservations à venir ainsi que les tarifs corrigés de location de l'Arena pour 2025-2026 afin d'assurer l'exactitude des prix et leur alignement avec les normes régionales. Proposé par...
M. Stewart, M. Mainville, tous d'accord? OK, c'est adopté. Maintenant, on est rendu à 8,6, c'est ça?
Oui, alors le rapport ZBL 16-24-2, l'amendement au règlement de zonage pour le 583 Limoges Road. Monsieur Laflèche.
Oui, alors bonsoir, cher Conseil. Alors, ce rapport est le rapport de recommandation qui a pris en compte les commentaires soumis lors de la réunion publique du 27 janvier. Si les membres du Conseil rappellent, on a une réunion publique concernant une modification au règlement de zonage pour le 583 Limoges, concernant de permettre, premièrement, 2 appartements accessoires en relation avec la résidence même, qui est existante, puis aussi permettre des unités de logement indépendantes qu'on avait définies comme étant 2 chambres à coucher avec une aire commune, puis ces gens-là seraient sur le terrain, puis ils seraient logés. Donc, ce n'est pas des maisons en soi, c'est plus des unités indépendantes de logement. Suivant la réunion publique, on avait eu un commentaire d'une résidente qui était présente à la réunion. Donc, le SAT avait approché les propriétaires, les demandeurs par la suite pour voir, écoutez, considérant les commentaires qu'on avait reçus durant la réunion, c'était surtout concernant l'esthétique, puis peut-être avoir des cours un peu plus privés qui donnent sur la résidence. On avait approché les propriétaires pour aller voir leurs voisins, voir s'il y avait des questions, commentaires ou objections un petit peu plus, comment je dirais, plus directs, plus personnels. Donc, les propriétaires ont fait le tour avec une lettre de les voisins tout autour, puis ça a été entendu qu'une clôture de 2,4 mètres de haut, qui est 8 pieds, en bois, pourrait être localisée tout le tour du terrain, puis ceci satisferait leur inquiétude puis les commentaires qu'ils avaient apportés durant la réunion. Donc, on n'avait plus vraiment d'objection concernant le projet en soi. Donc, l'autre aussi, le propriétaire demandait une marge de recul pour les bâtiments de 4,5 mètres des lignes de propriété. On a trouvé que 4,5 mètres, c'est une belle marge de recul des lignes voisinantes, mais 3,5 mètres serait mieux. Pourquoi? C'est nous-mêmes qui l'apportons pour la réduire, encore un peu plus proche des voisins. C'est que ça nous donne une meilleure enceinte, ça nous donne un peu plus de jeu pour l'enceinte intérieure. Si vous regardez là, à l'annexe 1 du rapport, là, il y avait concernant là, où est-ce qu'ils voulaient localiser, ça nous donnait une meilleure enceinte. J'aime mieux préserver plus l'intérieur, surtout suivant qu'on va avoir une clôture anyway, si vous voulez. Nonobstant, il va y avoir une clôture tout le tour. Donc, la marge de recul arrière pour donner de l'espace aux voisins, c'est plus ou moins vraiment nécessaire. Donc, on a réduit à 3,5 mètres au lieu de 4,5 mètres. Donc, suivant ces commentaires, le service d'aménagement du territoire est prêt à recommander l'adoption du règlement 1-2025 qui permettrait 2 appartements accessoires et puis les logements, les unités de logement indépendantes. Aviez-vous des questions?
Oui, je pense que M. Boisvenu, je pense qu'on est jasé, mais il m'a te laissé.
Okay, juste suite à l'annexe 1 dans la proposition, je me demandais juste si on avait eu des discussions avec les services d'urgence, donc services d'incendie et services de paramédics, pour les accès à l'espace en arrière, juste pour des discussions. Si jamais les paramédics ont à s'y rendre pour une raison ou une autre, ou les services d'incendie.
Parfait. Alors, l'adoption du règlement de zonage est une étape sur plusieurs étapes pour que le projet avance. Ceci maintenant que l'usage serait accepté. La prochaine étape, c'est justement de discuter de l'entente de plan d'ensemble qui accorderait exactement la signalisation, les accès pour les services d'urgence. Où est-ce que les services seraient installés sur le terrain? Parce qu'il va y avoir des salles de toilettes puis accès à l'eau pour chaque cabanon, chaque unité de logement indépendant. Donc, ceci dit, c'est important de savoir où les tuyaux passent. Si jamais il y a des fuites ou ainsi de suite, il faut le savoir, nous. Vous comprenez? Fait que toutes ces choses-là vont être en dessous de l'entente de plan d'ensemble, donc qui est la prochaine étape. Il y a aussi la question de contrôler les eaux de surface. Il ne faut pas s'arranger que toutes ces petites unités de logement-là créent des problèmes de drainage ou d'inondation chez les voisins. Il faut prendre ça en considération. Donc, l'étape que vous avez parlé, M. Boisvenu, va être sous justement l'entente de plan d'ensemble. Lorsqu'on reçoit les plans de leurs experts, on les partage avec les autres services. Services d'eau et d'égout, services de travaux publics, services d'incendie, pour avoir justement leurs commentaires exactement pour ce que vous avez apporté. Par la suite, on signe l'entente. Par la suite, les permis de construction commencent.
Merci.
D'autres questions, commentaires? OK.
Merci.
Parfait. Alors, pour celui-ci, il n'y a aucune résolution vu qu'on adopte le règlement plus tard.
Là, si je m'en rappelle bien, on est rendu à 11.1, c'est bien ça?
Celui-là a été retiré.
OK, oui, excuse-moi.
11.2.
11.2.
Oui, alors le groupe de services communautaire Kawabunga, celui-ci est un item qui a été établi à la dernière réunion. Donc, nous voulons savoir si vous voulez procéder tout de même avec une contribution monétaire.
Nous autres, on a eu des discussions à l'interne, je pense qu'entre les conseillers aussi, c'était noté qu'ils ont déjà les accès à nos bâtiments avec des prix réduits, puis c'est subventionné à travers de ça. Donc, je pense leur donner un autre 2 000 au-delà de ça. C'est peut-être un peu trop. Donc, pour moi, je pense qu'on est tous d'accord. Je pense qu'on va juste no action là-dessus.
Parfait. Alors, je vais le noter ici. Alors, la prochaine demande de don provient du comité de la Guignolée de Limoges.
Oui. Alors, cette année, j'ai bien lu, il demande 2 000 J'ai-tu bien lu ça? Oui, 2 000 Alors, moi, je vais y aller avec 750 de ma part.
Du quartier 6?
Oui, du quartier 6.
750 de ma part, s'il vous plaît.
Puis 500 du comté, des comtés unis, s'il vous plaît. Pour combler le 2 000.
Alors, on est à 2 000 maintenant. Je n'ai pas sorti ma calculatrice. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve de remettre un don au montant total de 2 000 au comité de la Guignolée de Limoges à prélever du compte des dons suivants, dont 500 des comtés unis de Prescott-Russell, 750 du quartier 5 et 750 du quartier 6. Proposé par...
Oui. Madame Drolet, M. Boisvenu, tous d'accord? OK, c'est approuvé. Maintenant, on est rendu à 11.4, puis encore, on a une discussion à l'interne ici. On va, parce qu'on a déjà parlé un peu que l'association de hockey de Saint-Isidore est déjà un peu subventionnée à travers des frais qui sont pas mal favorables. Mais je pense qu'on veut avoir une discussion un peu plus élaborée avant qu'on fasse une décision. Fait que j'aimerais ça tabler ça tout de suite, puis...
Oui,
revenir plus tard.
Absolument. J'aimerais juste préciser aussi que la politique le permet, vu que c'est un groupe à but non lucratif. La politique ne permet pas les associations de sport à but de profit. Donc, on peut le tabler absolument et le ramener à la prochaine
S'il vous plaît.
Oui, absolument. Alors, je vais le défaire.
OK, 11.5. Ricefield Agricultural Society. I think Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, I'm 500 from Ward 1.
Okay.
Parfait.
Now,
600. OK. On est rendu à 1100.
okay, and I think...
Monsieur Lalonde.
500. Okay. And then to get the 2,000, I'll make up the difference on my the United Counties. Right? Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
C'est ça, donc 400 des comptes.
S'il vous plaît, oui.
Alors, j'aime...
Juste confirmer, il demandait 2500 and you were just giving 2000. I just want to make sure that's correct. Okay.
Alors, qu'il soit résolu que le Conseil approuve de remettre un don de 2000 $ à la Riceville Agricultural Society à prélever des comptes de dons suivants, donc 400 $ des comtés unis de Prescott-Russell, 500 du quartier 1, 600 du quartier 2 et 500 du quartier 3. C'est ça. Alors, proposé par... Ah, quartier 4. Attends, juste un petit instant, je vais le corriger, je suis désolée.
Hey! Aren't you lucky?
Alors, quartier 4, 500 $. OK, proposé par...
Monsieur Stewart, Monsieur Mainville, tous d'accord? OK, c'est approuvé. Maintenant, je regarde la demande de Castleman, la banque alimentaire, puis il n'y a pas de montant demandé. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut aller chercher plus d'informations? Parce que je pense que c'est un organisme qui vaut la peine de supporter. C'est juste que c'est quoi qu'il demande.
Parfait. Alors, je vais le remettre au prochain.
S'il vous plaît, oui.
Parfait. OK. Alors, nous sommes maintenant au règlement. Je vais vous lire la résolution. Si vous avez des questions, vous voulez retirer un item de la résolution, vous me laissez savoir. Et puis, j'ai juste une précision aussi à faire pour l'une d'entre elles. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que les règlements énumérés ci-dessous soient lus en première, deuxième et troisième lecture et adoptés tels que présentés à l'ordre du jour le 24 mars 2024. Alors, le règlement numéro 1, le 2025, la modification au règlement le 583 chemin Limoges. Le 16-2025 pour nommer M. Mario Aucoeur au tribunal de contrôle des animaux. Nous voulons faire ça pour l'année vu qu'on a reçu une deuxième demande. Le règlement 17-2025 pour nommer M. Martin Rousseau comme chef pompier pour la municipalité de la Nation. 18-2025 pour nommer M. Daniel Desforges et Éric Fontaine comme inspecteurs municipaux des mauvaises herbes. 19-2025 pour modifier le règlement 122-2025 concernant la collecte des frais des coûts en capital pour les services d'eau et d'égouts pour Limoges. Celle-ci, c'est la précision, c'est vraiment pour les coûts capitaux. Le 22-2025 pour nommer M. Alexandre Saint-Amour comme le chef adjoint au service du bâtiment. Ce règlement a été ajouté sous l'amendement. Et puis, le 2023-2025 pour autoriser le contrat avec Mike Waste Disposal pour la collecte des ordures. Est-ce que vous voulez, on l'adopte comme ça? Oui. Alors, proposé par?
Monsieur Fogg, Monsieur Mainville, tous d'accord? Everybody okay with that? Parfait. Welcome, Mr. Russo. OK. Maintenant, on est rendu, je pense que... Au huis clos, mais j'avais mon item.
14.1.
Je suis désolée.
Donc, vous voulez juste mentionner que durant nos rencontres publiques avec pour les salles communautaires, on a eu du feedback qu'ils voulaient que Limoges puis Saint-Isidore aussi trouvent une façon d'avoir un peu de support puis des groupes communautaires pour embarquer. Donc, j'aimerais ça juste que le staff regarde qu'est-ce que les options peuvent être pour ces communautaires-là. Puis juste revenir peut-être avec un rapport ou avec des idées, juste pour voir comment est-ce qu'on peut y aller de l'avant pour voir comment est-ce qu'on peut embarquer ces gens-là dans ces communautés-là.
Merci, M. le maire. Oui, définitivement, moi et M. Lafrance, on était présents aux réunions puis on a entendu les commentaires. On peut définitivement regarder à des options potentielles pour considération du Conseil. Évidemment, notre priorité, comme c'est là, c'est sur les 3 centres existants qu'on essaie de travailler avec, mais on va travailler ensemble pour amener un rapport au Conseil as soon as possible.
OK. Est-ce que vous avez des questions, commentaires concernant ça? Je pense que tout le monde est... OK, parfait. Merci beaucoup. OK, là, maintenant, on peut y aller à huis clos, je pense.
Oui, parfait. Alors, je vais lire la résolution, juste un instant. Alors, qu'il soit résolu que la présente assemblée soit ajournée à 18h45 pour une session à huis clos conformément aux sections suivantes de la loi municipale 2001, la section 239.2, B, renseignement privé et D, relations de travail. Proposé par M. Lalonde, appuyé par
M. Boisvenu, tous d'accord? OK, on ferme la...
Parfait. Juste un instant, je vais nous mettre en huis clos.
Okay,
Retour.
welcome back, everybody. Donc, je pense qu'on peut tu as des déclarations, je pense, à faire?
Oui, et je vais réouvrir l'Assemblée. Qu'il soit résolu que la présente Assemblée soit rouverte à 19h24. Je sais que c'est ici. Proposé par...
Monsieur Stewart, Monsieur Fogg, tous d'accord? OK.
Parfait. Alors, en gros, aux 3 items que nous avions à l'ordre du jour, le Conseil a donné des directives verbales à l'administration. Portant sur une politique pour les relations de travail, un rapport verbal concernant aussi les relations de travail et un autre rapport verbal concernant une personne identifiable et des relations de travail. Alors, nous pouvons procéder à le règlement de confirmation. Donc, qu'il soit résolu que le règlement numéro 20-2025 pour confirmer les procédures du Conseil à sa réunion ordinaire le 24 mars 2025 soit lu et adopté en première, deuxième, troisième lecture. Proposé par...
Monsieur Mainville? Monsieur Stewart, tous d'accord? OK, we're good.
Parfait. Alors, la prochaine réunion publique se tiendra le 14 avril. Et est-ce qu'on a sauté par-dessus les annonces du Conseil? Je ne sais pas s'il y avait des gens qui avaient des annonces à faire.
OK, non,
on est correct.
aucune.
Parfait. Alors, tous les items étant écoulés, la réunion est conclue à 19h25. Merci.